When we think of Epiphany, we often think of the arrival of the Magi and that gift of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And we usually associate it with that idea of Christmas gift-giving and the three wise men showing up and doing them homage. But what the Feast of the Epiphany focuses on, what the word Epiphany means, let's back up a little bit. What the word Epiphany means is manifestation. In ancient times, you might say it was an epiphany when like a great king showed up at the scene of battle. We can also say to ourselves that like we have an epiphany when we realize something. It's when something dawns upon us, when we see something, when something is made manifest to us. And what we celebrate primarily here at Epiphany is the revelation of Jesus to the first outsiders, the first Gentiles. We focus that Jesus at Christmas revealed himself to the shepherds, but today at Epiphany is when he reveals himself to the wider world. This is when he says, I'm not just here for the people of Bethlehem. I'm not just here for the people of Judea, Jerusalem, Galilee, or Israel. I am here for everyone. It's when he reveals himself to the whole world. God reveals himself to us in a lot of different ways. A way that I can remember quite distinctly in my own vocational journey is I was serving at Mass when I was home from my first year of college, and when my pastor elevated the host after the consecration, I got this huge booming feeling in my heart. I just had an experience of God where I knew that I was meant to enter seminary. That priest, who was my pastor at the time, was Father Michael Eisen, who on Thursday we received another epiphany about. We heard that Pope Francis named him to be the new auxiliary bishop of St. Paul in Minneapolis. So we'll have Archbishop Hebda and then Bishop Joseph Williams, who was ordained last year, and then we'll also have now, or soon to be, Bishop Michael Eisen as well. And so that was a great epiphany for me and Father Bodine waking up. Father Bodine was one of Father Eisen's classmates. He went to seminary with him, and then I had him as my pastor in high school and college. So that was a welcome epiphany for us to learn that God has, through Pope Francis, chosen Father Eisen to become the next bishop. I also have a number of friends who are in the Holy Land right now in seminary, and they're visiting a number of different places. And one of the places that was quite impactful for me, that is being quite impactful for them, as I'm hearing reports back, was Elijah's cave. If you remember the story of Elijah running away from Jezebel, he hid inside this cave, and he was listening for the Lord during this time of desolation where Jezebel was trying to kill him. And he was listening for the Lord, trying to find where, Lord, are you going to make yourself manifest to me? How are you going to reveal yourself to me? And rather than having sort of God, like in Mass for me, at my experience, where it was kind of like with a baseball bat upside the head, go to seminary, it was explicitly not that way for him, where there was a storm, but he didn't hear Jesus in the storm. There was a fire, he didn't hear Jesus in the fire. There was a great wind, but he didn't hear Jesus in the wind. But it was only in the silence, in the calm, after all of that left, that he heard Jesus' voice. So Jesus, God, can make himself manifest to us in so many different ways. If we look back on the past year, how has God made himself manifest to us? When have been those moments that you've noticed God? Sometimes it can be hard to notice when that's happening. But when we need to build up a mindfulness about experiencing God, where we build up a habit of saying, I experienced God's grace there, and thanking God for that. Looking back on your day and saying, here's where I experienced God throughout this day, throughout this past week, throughout this past month. Making notices of those so that we can notice even those little ways that God revealed himself to us. When I heard from God at that Mass 10 or so years ago that I should enter seminary, it was not something I was looking for. It was not something I was listening for. God very much was like, boom, go to seminary, right? And that's not always how God works. That's often not how God works. So we have to note, we have to listen for those littler moments that God reveals himself to us. Those magi from the east could have very well just been, doing all kinds of other things and not noticing this little star that was leading them towards the Messiah. They could have been slack in their studies about, what are all the prophecies in the Middle East, and They could have very well seen the star and said, well, I don't know what that means. But they were attentive. They were attentive to the prophecies of the various regions around them. They were attentive to the sky, and they noticed the star, and they knew that that meant the Messiah was going to appear in Bethlehem. So that we can have these experiences, so that we can have these epiphanies of the Lord to us, we need to be attentive. We need to look back and say, Lord, where have you appeared in my life? Where have you made yourself manifest to me? Where are you looking for me to be more attentive, for me to listen to your voice more? How can I listen for those little epiphanies that you want to give me? So, as we celebrate our Lord revealing himself to the nations today, let's take time in prayer. Say, Lord, how do you want to reveal yourself to me today? How do you want to reveal yourself to me in this coming week, in this coming month? Help me to have that grace to be attentive to your epiphany in my life.